The sleek silver ship called Harmonious Exchange slowly descended through Earth's atmosphere. It was larger than 3 football fields and shaped like a smooth teardrop. Sunlight reflected off its polished surface as it landed gently in the designated area outside Geneva, Switzerland. Inside the United Nations Special Reception Hall, 50 of Earth's top diplomats and leaders waited nervously. After years of distant communication, this was humanity's first face-to-face meeting with the Galactic Concordat, a union of 17 advanced alien species that had been watching Earth for decades. Akira Tanaka adjusted his blue diplomatic uniform and tried to calm his racing heart. As Earth's lead diplomat for this historic meeting, everything rode on his shoulders. "Remember," said General Martinez beside him, "these aliens have technology centuries beyond ours. We need this alliance." Akira nodded. "I've studied their customs. For 3 years, we'll be fine." The massive doors at the end of the hall silently slid open. 3 distinctly different alien forms entered. The first alien was tall and willowy with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer. It had 4 arms and large, expressive eyes that changed color with its emotions. This was Ambassador Zila of the Frin, an empathic species known for their abilities to sense emotions. The second alien moved like flowing water. It had 6 eyes arranged in a circle on its head, and a body covered in geometric patterns that constantly shifted. This was Representative Quill of the Quantari, a hive-minded species known for their mathematical brilliance. The third alien was the most human-like in appearance, but stood nearly 8 feet tall with golden skin and eyes that looked ancient and wise. This was Counselor Morvath of the Eldar, the oldest species in the Concordat. Akira stepped forward and performed the traditional greeting gesture they had taught him through their earlier communications. Right hand over heart, left, hand extended palm up. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we welcome the Galactic Concordat to our world," he said clearly. The aliens returned variations of the gesture. Ambassador Zila's eyes turned a warm purple color. The harmony of new voices joins the Galactic. "Song," she said in slightly accented English. "We come in peace and curiosity." The formal introduction ceremony lasted 2 hours. The aliens explained the benefits of joining the Galactic Concordat: shared technology, protection from cosmic threats, and access to trade with thousands of worlds. In return, Earth would need to follow certain galactic laws and allow cultural exchanges. "We wish to understand your species better," said Quill, the Quantari representative. "To truly know if humans are ready to join galactic society, we must see how you live, how you organize your society, and especially how you raise your young." Counselor Morvath nodded solemnly. "All advanced civilizations are judged by how they treat their most vulnerable members." Akira smiled. This was perfect. Earth had prepared a tour of humanity's greatest achievements: their best hospitals, universities, environmental restoration projects, and peaceful international cooperation efforts. "We would be honored to show you our world," Akira said. "We've prepared a 2-week tour of Earth's most impressive developments." The next day, the diplomatic tour began. The aliens were impressed by the International Space Habitat in orbit, nodded approvingly at the Clean Ocean Initiative that had removed 80% of plastic from the seas, and seemed genuinely interested in human arts and music. On the 3rd day, their schedule included a visit to the prestigious International Youth Academy in the Swiss Alps, a showcase of Earth's advanced educational systems where exceptional students from around the world lived and studied together. "This is one of our finest educational institutions," Akira explained as their transport landed near the beautiful campus with its modern buildings nestled among mountain views. "Students from age 12 to 18 come here from 140 different countries to learn together." Headmistress Chen greeted them at the entrance. "Welcome to our academy. We're honored to show you how we prepare the next generation of human leaders." As they toured the facilities, the students watched with wide-eyed wonder at the alien visitors. The academy had clean dormitories where 4 students shared comfortable rooms, advanced laboratories, art centers, sports fields, and classrooms filled with interactive technology. "And the children live here, without their parents?" asked Ambassador Zila as they observed a classroom of 13-year-olds learning quantum physics principles. Yes, replied Headmistress Chen proudly. They stay here during the school terms. Many return home for holidays, though some international students remain year-round. Zila's skin darkened and her eyes flashed red. The other aliens also showed signs of distress. Quill's geometric patterns began spinning rapidly, and Morvath's golden face hardened. Akira noticed the change immediately. Is something wrong? He asked quietly. These small humans, Zila said, her voice trembling. They are separated from their familial units, contained in these structures away from their genetic guardians? Well, yes, Akira replied, confused by their reaction. This is a boarding school. It's considered a privilege to attend. Students come here for the exceptional education. The Vryn ambassador stepped back, visibly upset. They are so young. In our culture, Vryn offspring cannot survive without constant telepathic connection to their parents until full maturity. Quill, the Quantari, blinked all 6 eyes rapidly. Quantari young develop in communal pods with hundreds of siblings, sharing a hive mind. To separate them would cause madness. Morvath, the Eldar representative, looked at the human children with what appeared to be pity. The Eldar produce so few offspring that each child is precious beyond measure. They never leave the protective ancestral grounds until adulthood ceremonies, at age 50. Akira realized they were facing a serious cultural misunderstanding. Please understand, human children develop differently. Independence is valued in our culture. These students chose to come here. A 14-year-old girl named Maya stepped forward bravely. I asked my parents to apply here. I love it at this school. We learn so much and make friends from all over the world. But the aliens were not reassured. As their tour continued to the dormitory, Building's Ambassador Zila became increasingly agitated. When they saw the security systems designed to keep students safe, ID card access, curfew check-ins, and restricted campus exits, her emotional control broke completely. These are containment protocols, supervision restrictions, movement limitations, she cried out, emitting distress pheromones that made everyone nearby feel uneasy. A crowd had gathered outside, students, teachers, and international press covering the historic alien visit. News cameras were recording as Zila dramatically turned to the assembled humans. You imprisoned human children? Are you insane? She declared loudly. This violates the most fundamental rights of sentient offspring across the galaxy. The reporter's cameras flashed. Within minutes, the alien ambassador's outburst was broadcasting worldwide. By evening, it would reach every corner of Earth. Akira tried desperately to explain, but the damage was done. The aliens retreated to their ship, deeply disturbed by what they had seen. What humans viewed as an excellent educational opportunity, the aliens saw as cruel isolation of young ones. As their first day of cultural exchange ended in confusion and diplomatic tension, Akira knew that humanity's entrance into the Galactic community now hung by a thread, all because of a profound misunderstanding about how humans raise their children. The morning after the disastrous school visit, Akira's communication device wouldn't stop buzzing. News of the human child imprisonment scandal had spread across every media outlet on Earth. Worse, according to urgent messages from the space communication team, the story was now spreading throughout the galaxy. Akira watched in horror as the alien news broadcast played on his screen. The Vryn news anchor's skin rippled with patterns of distress as dramatic footage of Earth's boarding schools played behind her. Shocking evidence reveals humans routinely separate their young from parental units, the alien reporter said. These schools force children to sleep in designated containment areas and follow strict behavioral protocols. The broadcast showed images of dormitories, cafeteria lines, and classroom rows, all made to look like prison facilities through clever editing and ominous music. Akira dropped his head into his hands. This is a disaster. His assistant, Lin, entered the office with more bad news. The Galactic Concordate's Governing Council has issued a formal statement. They're placing an immediate hold on Earth's application to join Galactic Society. We need help, Akira said. Call Dr. Eliza Chen immediately. Dr. Eliza Chen was Earth's foremost expert on understanding alien cultures. Her office at the Global University was filled with artifacts from the first unmanned missions to alien worlds. When Akira's call came in, she was already watching the unfolding diplomatic crisis. "It's a classic cultural misunderstanding," she told Akira over the video call. "Each species raises their young differently based on their biology and evolutionary history. Can you help us fix this?" Akira asked desperately. Eliza nodded. "I'll need to assemble a team, experts in child development, teachers, psychologists, and most importantly, I want to bring some of the students from that boarding school. The aliens need to hear directly from the children themselves." "The Concordat representatives have agreed to a special meeting tomorrow," Akira said. "But I warn you, they're extremely upset." The meeting room inside the Harmonious Exchange felt tense. The three alien representatives sat across from the human delegation with expressions of distrust. Dr. Chen led the human team, which included child psychologists, education experts, and 4 teenage students from the International Youth Academy, including Maya, the brave girl who had spoken up during the tour. Ambassador Zila's skin had taken on a grayish tone of distress. "We have reviewed more evidence of human treatment of offspring. It is worse than we initially thought. Your juvenile detention centers imprison children with adult criminals." "No, that's not accurate," Dr. Chen began carefully. "There's an important distinction. And we discovered orphanages where parentless children are held in group facilities," Quill interrupted, geometric patterns flashing angrily. "Please," Dr. Chen said firmly. "There are critical cultural differences you need to understand. Human children develop differently than your species. Independence is actually crucial for our development." She gestured toward the viewing screen. "May I present some information about human biology and development?" For the next hour, Dr. Chen explained how human children naturally grow toward independence. She showed brain scans demonstrating how learning to make decisions activates crucial neural pathways. The child psychologists presented research on how guided independence helps children become healthy adults. The aliens listened with growing interest but still seemed unconvinced. Finally, Maya stepped forward. The 16-year-old student straightened her academy uniform and faced the aliens directly. "I want to tell you about my life," she said clearly. "When I was 12, I begged my parents to let me apply to the academy. I come from a small village in Kenya where girls don't always get to finish school. At the academy, I study quantum physics in 3 languages. I have friends from Japan, Brazil, and Egypt. I miss my family sometimes, but we talk every week, on video calls." The aliens watched her intently as she continued. "Being away from home taught me to solve problems on my own. I learned to manage my time, to resolve conflicts with roommates, and to adapt to new situations. These aren't punishments. They're valuable life skills." The other students shared similar stories. Jamal from Egypt explained how living at the Yo Academy helped him escape political unrest in his home country. Soo Jin from South Korea described how distance from her highly demanding parents allowed her to discover her own strengths. Thomas from Germany talked about how living with people from different cultures taught him understanding and respect that he couldn't learn from books. The aliens began asking questions, genuinely curious now. "But don't you feel abandoned?" Zila asked gently. "Not at all," Maya answered. "My parents made this sacrifice because they want me to have opportunities they never had. That's love, not abandonment." As the meeting progressed, Dr. Chen explained how different human cultures raised children differently, but independence training was a common thread throughout human history. "Humans face an unusual challenge," she explained. "Our young require protection for many years, yet must eventually function completely independently. Our educational practices evolved to balance those needs." At the end of the meeting, Ambassador showed Zila's skin had shifted to a more thoughtful blue shade. "We have much to consider. Your children are different than we assumed." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Counselor Morvath, who had remained unusually quiet throughout the meeting, approached Maya. "Young human," he said with a slight, "Oh, so your perspective is most enlightening. Perhaps you and your friends would consider visiting our ship tomorrow. We would value showing you how young Eldar are raised in comparison. Maya looked at Dr. Chen, who nodded cautiously. We'd be honored, Maya replied. After the delegation left, Morvath returned to his private chamber and activated a secure communication channel. The situation is more complex than we anticipated, he reported to a shadowy figure on the screen. These human children, they develop independence and problem-solving abilities at rates unseen in any other species. Their neural adaptability is concerning. The figure on the screen leaned forward. Then we proceed as planned. Bring the young humans aboard. Study them more closely. And if the studies confirm our suspicions? Morvath asked. Then the Eldar, High Council, will never allow humans to join the Concordat, the figure replied. The risk would be too great. We've managed the galaxy's development for 10,000 years. We will not let a new species disrupt the established order. As Morvath ended the transmission, he looked out the viewing port at Earth glowing below. The humans had no idea their children's greatest strength, their independence, was precisely what the Eldar feared most. The next morning, Dr. Chen paced nervously in the diplomatic meeting room. I don't like this, she told Akira. Why would the Eldar suddenly want private time with our students? The kids made a strong impression yesterday, Akira replied, though he shared her concern. Maya especially. Her speech about independence was quite powerful. Dr. Chen frowned. That's what worries me. The Eldar were too quiet during our presentation, and Morvath watched Maya like a scientist observing a lab specimen. Their conversation was interrupted when Maya and the other 3 students, Jamal, Sujin, and Thomas, arrived, dressed in their academy uniforms. They looked excited about visiting the alien ship. Remember the protocol, Dr. Chen instructed them firmly. Stay together at all times. Keep your emergency communication devices with you. Don't accept any food or drink without approval from our medical team. Maya nodded confidently. We've studied all the briefing materials, Dr. Chen. We'll be fine. And remember, Akira added, you're not just students today, you're Earth's ambassadors. The teens stood a little taller at this reminder of their important role. A soft chime announced the arrival of the alien delegation. Counselor Morvath entered, followed by 2 other Eldar. Unlike the previous meetings, the Vrin and Quantari representatives were absent. Where are Ambassador Zila and Representative Quill? Dr. Chen asked. They are attending to other diplomatic matters, Morvath replied smoothly. The Vrin and Quantari have different interests than the Eldar. We are particularly concerned with the development of young minds. Something about his tone made Dr. Chen even more uneasy. I'd like to accompany the students, she said firmly. Morvath's golden face showed a flicker of annoyance. We had hoped for a pure cultural exchange without adult human influence. The young ones would see how Eldar children live, and our young ones would learn about human education. Adult presence might inhibit honest conversation. Before Dr. Chen could object further, Maya stepped forward. We can handle this, Dr. Chen. Isn't this exactly what you explained yesterday? Human children learn by facing new situations independently. Dr. Chen hesitated. Denying Maya's request would undermine everything they had told the aliens about human development. With reluctance, she nodded. Very well, but check in every hour, and the visit ends by sunset. After the students departed with the Eldar delegation, Dr. Chen turned to Akira. I need access to the Concordat's information database. I want to learn more about the Eldar's interest in other species' children. Aboard the Harmonious Exchange, Maya and her friends were led through gleaming corridors by Counselor Morvath. The ship was beautiful, with walls that seemed alive with shifting patterns of light and energy. The Eldar have been space travelers for over 50,000 years, Morvath explained. We have guided many young species into the galactic community. Many species are in the Concordat now? Thomas asked. 17 active species, Morvath answered, though there were once more. What happened to the others? Sujin asked curiously. Morvath's expression darkened slightly. Some species prove unsuitable for galactic society. Others develop in concerning directions. They arrived at a large observation deck with a spectacular view of Earth below. Floating chairs formed automatically as they entered, molding perfectly to their bodies as they sat down. You must understand, Morvath continued, the galaxy is a delicate balance. Species with aggressive tendencies or unpredictable development patterns can disturb that balance. Is that why you were so concerned about our educational system? Jamal asked. Precisely, Morvath replied. The way you separate your young from their parents and encourage independent thought is unusual. Most species maintain close family bonds and follow traditional knowledge patterns. But that's what makes humans special, Maya said proudly. We learn to think for ourselves. Morvath studied her closely. Yes, that is precisely what makes humans special. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen and Akira had been granted limited access to the Concordate's historical records. They sat in a small research room, reviewing information on a holographic display. Look at this. Dr. Chen pointed to a section of text. 50 years ago, the Eldar led an intervention with a species called the Naru. Apparently, the Naru had an educational system that encouraged creative problem-solving and independent development. Similar to humans, Akira noted. Yes, but that's not all. Dr. Chen's voice grew tense as she continued reading. The Eldar determined the Naru were developing too rapidly and posed a stability risk to galactic order. They implemented what they called developmental corrections to Naru society. What does that mean? Akira asked. I don't know exactly, but according to these population statistics, the Naru's technological advancement rate dropped dramatically afterward, and their application for full Concordate membership was permanently shelved. Akira leaned back, troubled. You think the Eldar might see humans as a similar risk? I think we need to learn more about. Dr. Chen stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening as she found another document. Akira, look at this research report. The Eldar have been studying human brain development for decades. They're particularly interested in our neural plasticity during childhood. The report contained detailed analysis of human children's adaptability, creativity, and problem-solving abilities, all rated as concerning and potentially destabilizing. Akira read through the document with growing alarm. According to this, the Eldar believe human children develop cognitive abilities too quickly and unpredictably. They recommend intervention before Earth joins the Concordate. That's why Morvath wanted to get the students alone, Dr. Chen realized with horror. This isn't a cultural exchange, it's a research operation. She grabbed her communication device and tried contacting Maya. There was no response. We need to get those kids off that ship right now, she said, already moving toward the door. Back on the ship, Maya and her friends were being led deeper into the vessel, away from the observation deck. I thought we were going to meet young Eldar, Maya said, becoming suspicious of their increasingly isolated location. All in good time, Morvath replied. First, we have prepared special accommodations for each of you, places where you can rest and refresh yourselves. They arrived at a corridor with 4 separate rooms. Each doorway shimmered with a different color. These are customized environments based on our analysis of your psychological profiles, Morvath explained. Maya, the blue room is yours. Jamal, you have the green. Sujin, the purple, and Thomas, the amber. Maya felt increasingly uneasy. We'd prefer to stay together. Morvath's expression hardened slightly. That would defeat the purpose of our observation. Please enter your assigned rooms. Observation? Sujin questioned sharply. Before Morvath could respond, a melodic alarm sounded throughout the ship. Another Eldar rushed up to Morvath and whispered urgently in his ear. Morvath's face showed rare emotion, anger. It seems your Dr. Chen has been accessing restricted information. This complicates matters. He turned to his assistants. Proceed as planned, but accelerate the timeline. The Eldar moved with surprising speed. Before the teens could react, they were firmly guided toward the separate doors. This is not a request, Morvath said coldly. The future stability of the galaxy may depend on understanding exactly how human children develop such dangerous levels of independence. As Maya was pushed toward the blue doorway, she caught the eyes of her friends. In that brief moment, a silent message passed between them, the kind of understanding that only comes from facing challenges together. They might be separated, but they weren't alone. And whatever the Eldar were planning, they would face it with the very quality that most concerned the aliens: human ingenuity and independence. The blue room closed behind Maya with a soft hiss. Instead of the prison cell she expected, she found herself in what looked like a luxury apartment. The walls glowed with gentle blue light, comfortable furniture adjusted itself to her height, and a table held what appeared to be food and drinks. "Welcome, Maya Williams," said a calm voice from nowhere. "This environment has been designed for your comfort based on human biological requirements. Please rest and refresh yourself." Maya ignored the voice and immediately checked the door. As expected, it wouldn't open. She pulled out her emergency communication device, but the screen remained blank. No signal. "Your communication attempts will not function in this chamber," the voice informed her. "Please do not be concerned. This is standard protocol for all new visitors to Eldar vessels." "Standard protocol to kidnap teenagers?" Maya challenged, searching the room for cameras or monitoring devices. "This is not a kidnapping. It is a necessary research opportunity. The Eldar Council requires direct observation of human cognitive development patterns." Maya laughed bitterly. "So we're lab rats, and here I thought we were having a cultural exchange." She examined the room carefully, looking for any weakness or technology she could use. Her years at boarding school had taught her to be resourceful in unfamiliar situations. "Interesting," the voice commented. "Your problem-solving behaviors, activated immediately upon isolation. Most species young would display distress or passive acceptance." Maya realized every action she took was being analyzed. "Fine," she thought. "I'll give them something to analyze." She sat down calmly on the floor, closed her eyes, and began to meditate, doing absolutely nothing that would provide useful data. In similar rooms throughout the ship, Jamal, Sujin, and Thomas were also discovering they were prisoners. Each reacted differently. Jamal, who had grown up in a politically unstable region, immediately began constructing a mental map of the ship based on their walk through the corridors. He tested different areas of his green glowing room, looking for structural weaknesses. Sujin, with her background in computer science, examined every technological interface in her purple chamber, searching for ways to access the ship's systems. Thomas, whose family had survived historical persecution in Europe, focused on understanding the Eldar psychology by engaging the monitoring voice in conversation, gathering information while revealing little about himself. Without communicating, each teenager instinctively began working on different aspects of their shared problem, exactly the kind of independent, adaptive thinking that had alarmed the Eldar in the first place. On Earth, Dr. Chen burst into the United Nations emergency meeting room, where world leaders had gathered to address the crisis. "The students have been abducted," she announced. "The Eldar have cut off all communication." The room erupted in shocked voices. The Secretary General raised her hands for silence. "What evidence do we have of hostile intent?" she asked. Akira stepped forward. "We discovered research documents showing the Eldar consider human cognitive development patterns potentially dangerous to galactic stability. They've intervened with other species in the past, forcibly altering their development." "And what about the other aliens, the Vryn and Quantari?" asked the American representative. "We've attempted contact," Dr. Chen replied. "The Vryn ambassador seems genuinely shocked by the Eldar's actions. They claim they were misled about the purpose of bringing humans into the Concordat." The Chinese delegate stood. "What options do we have? Our military cannot match alien technology." "Not military options," Dr. Chen said. "But we may have one advantage the Eldar didn't consider." Back on the ship, Maya had been meditating silently for over an hour. The monitoring voice had grown, increasingly confused by her inaction. "Your vital signs indicate you are not sleeping, yet you remain motionless. Is this a form of protest or religious practice?" Maya didn't respond. Instead, she focused on the slight vibration she could feel. Through the floor, all ships, even advanced alien ones, would have environmental systems. air circulation, temperature control, and waste management. These systems would connect all parts of the vessel. After the voice made several more confused inquiries, Maya finally spoke. I'm practicing a human concentration technique. It helps us prepare for difficult situations. Fascinating. Please elaborate on this technique. I'd be happy to, Maya replied, slowly standing. But first, could you adjust the room temperature? It's a bit cold for proper meditation. Of course, temperature adjustment initiated. Maya heard a faint humming from a panel near the floor. Exactly what she was looking for, an environmental control access point. Now she just needed to get it open. Actually, it's still too cold, she said. Could you make it warmer? As the system worked harder, the panel's outline became more visible as warm air flowed through. Maya casually moved closer to it. Human temperature preferences are quite specific, she said conversationally. At our boarding school, we learned to adjust environmental controls ourselves. That information correlates with Eldar research on human independence training, the voice replied. Maya smiled slightly. Yes, we're taught to solve problems ourselves. For instance, in one quick movement, she knelt and pressed firmly on the panel in several spots she had identified. With a soft click, it popped open, revealing a complex system of tubes and circuits. The voice spoke rapidly. Environmental access is not permitted. Please step away from... Maya reached into the system and yanked out several connection points. The blue lighting flickered, and the voice cut off mid-sentence. Working quickly, she examined the circuitry. Though alien in design, she recognized patterns similar to Earth technology. At the academy, she had excelled in engineering classes. If she was right, these connections might link to the ship's central environmental system, and potentially to the other rooms where her friends were. Maya took a thin metal decorative piece from her uniform and used it to bridge certain circuits. After several attempts, she was rewarded with a faint static sound coming from the opening. Hello? She whispered into the makeshift communication system. Jamal? Sujin? Thomas? Can anyone hear me? After a moment of heart-stopping silence, a faint voice replied, Maya, is that you? It was Sujin. Yes. I've tapped into the environmental system. We might be able to communicate through it. Soon, all 4 teenagers had discovered how to access the environmental systems in their rooms. Through whispered conversations, they shared what they had learned. There's a pattern to how the ship systems work, Sujin explained. I've been analyzing the control interfaces. I think I can trigger a system reset that might unlock the doors, but it will only work for a few seconds. We need to know where to go once we're out, Jamal added. From what I've observed, we're in a research sector. The main transportation hub should be 2 levels up. The Eldar are conducting similar research on other species, Thomas reported. I got the voice in my room to reveal that there are other specimens on board. Maya thought quickly. We need to coordinate. Everyone find something in your room you can use as a tool or weapon. When Sujin triggers the system reset, we'll have seconds to get out and meet in the corridor. Then we'll head up 2 levels as Jamal suggested. And then what? Thomas asked. Maya's expression grew determined. Then we find out what else the Eldar are hiding on this ship. They brought aboard the wrong human children if they wanted passive subjects. They brought students who've been trained to think independently and solve problems. They brought teenagers from a boarding school, Sujin added with a smile in her voice. We practically specialize in breaking rules. As the teenagers prepared for their escape, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. An announcement echoed through the corridors in the Eldar language. What's happening? Jamal asked through their makeshift communication system. I don't know, Maya replied. But it might be our best chance to move. Everyone ready? 4 voices responded as one. Ready. Whatever the Eldar had planned for them, these human teenagers were about to show exactly why their independence made them so dangerous. The alarms continued to blare throughout the Eldar ship. Through their makeshift communication system, Maya counted down. 3, 2, 1, now. At that moment, Sujin triggered the system reset she had programmed. The lights flickered throughout the vessel, and with a soft click, the doors to their rooms unlocked. Maya burst into the corridor and quickly found her friends doing the same. They had all grabbed makeshift tools. Maya held a metal rod from a decorative table. Jamal carried a piece of equipment that resembled a wrench. Sujin had several small electronic devices she'd dismantled, and Thomas had filled his pockets with small objects that could create distractions. "Everyone okay?" Maya whispered. They nodded, looking both scared and determined. "The transport tubes should be this way," Jamal said, pointing down the corridor. "2 levels up, like I mentioned." They moved quickly but cautiously. The alarms provided good cover for their escape, as most of the Eldar crew seemed focused on some other emergency. "What do you think is happening?" Thomas asked as they ducked into an alcove to avoid 2 rushing Eldar crew members. "I don't know," Maya replied. "But whatever it is, it's buying us time." They reached what appeared to be a vertical transport tube, similar to an elevator but without visible controls. Jamal studied it briefly. "It seems to be activated by touch," he said, placing his hand on a glowing panel. Nothing happened. "It probably responds to Eldar biology," Sujin suggested. She pulled out one of her scavenged electronic devices. "Let me try something." Working quickly, she connected her device to the panel and adjusted several settings. The panel flickered and then glowed green. "Going up," she said with a small smile of triumph. The transport activated, surrounding them with a gentle anti-gravity field that lifted them upward. Through transparent sections of the tube, they could see different levels of the massive ship as they passed. They exited 2 levels up as planned. This area of the ship looked different, more secure, with fewer decorative elements and more functional technology. "Look," Thomas whispered, pointing at symbols on the wall. "These look like navigation markers." Sujin studied them. "Based on the universal translation protocols we learned about, this one might indicate specimen storage or preservation." Maya felt a chill. "You said the Eldar are conducting research on other species too, right? Maybe we should check it out." They followed the symbols through increasingly restricted areas of the ship. The alarms had stopped, but the Eldar crew still seemed distracted by whatever emergency had occurred. Finally, they reached a heavily secured door. Unlike the other areas, this one required multiple forms of authentication. "We'll never get through that," Jamal said with disappointment. Maya wasn't ready to give up. There must be another way. What about maintenance access? Even advanced ships need regular repairs. They searched the surrounding area and found a smaller, less obvious panel near the floor. Thomas knelt down to examine it. "This looks like a service entry," he said. "Probably for automated maintenance systems." It was small, but just large enough for a teenage human to squeeze through. One by one, they crawled through the access tunnel and emerged on the other side of the secured door. What they saw left them speechless. The vast chamber was filled with hundreds of transparent pods, each containing what appeared to be a sleeping child. But these weren't human children. They were clearly from many different alien species. Some had blue skin like the Vryn, others had multiple limbs or entirely unfamiliar anatomies. "What is this place?" Jamal whispered in horror. Sujin moved to a control station and began examining the data displays. Her expression grew increasingly troubled. "According to these records, these are children from multiple species across the galaxy. They've been in stasis for years, some for decades." Maya walked slowly between the pods, looking at the sleeping alien children. "Why would the Eldar keep them here?" "Look at this," Thomas called from another control panel. He had found a visual record that was playing on a large screen. The recording showed Counselor Morvath speaking to a group of other Eldar. The specimens continued to demonstrate concerning levels of independent thought after the initial treatments. The neural reconfiguration protocols must be strengthened. Another recording showed alien children in what appeared to be a classroom setting. The teacher, an Eldar, was conducting some kind of mental exercise. When one child answered a question, in an unexpected way, they received a painful correction through a device attached to their head. "They're not just studying these children," Maya realized with growing horror. "They're reprogramming them." Sujin's voice shook as she read more. "Data. The Eldar have been doing this for thousands of years. Whenever they encounter a species with high cognitive adaptability or independent thinking, they identify it as a stability threat to galactic order. Look at this species designation, Jamal said, pointing to one group of pods containing children with iridescent skin. It says Naru, the species Dr. Chen mentioned, the ones who supposedly went extinct. They didn't go extinct, Thomas said grimly. The Eldar just stopped them from developing naturally. They've been taking their children and changing them. Maya felt sick as she understood the full implications. The Eldar maintain control of the galaxy by preventing any species from developing too much independence. That's why they were so shocked by our boarding schools. We're deliberately teaching children to think for themselves. And that's why they brought us here, Su Jin added. We're next. Before they could process this horrifying revelation, they heard voices approaching. Angry, urgent voices speaking in the Eldar language. Hide, Maya whispered. They ducked behind various equipment just as the main door slid open. Counselor Morvath entered, accompanied by several Eldar scientists and security personnel. The human children have escaped their observation chambers, he said coldly. Find them immediately. The High Council is sending a delegation to evaluate the human threat level. We must have complete neural pattern analyses before they arrive. From her hiding place, Maya could see a large screen displaying what appeared to be Earth. With a shock, she realized a second, much larger Eldar vessel was now in orbit around her home planet. What about the human authorities' demands? One of the scientists asked. Irrelevant, Morvath replied. Once the High Council confirms our assessment, a targeted intervention will be authorized. The human educational system will be restructured to produce more compliant generations. Maya looked at her friends' horrified faces. The Eldar weren't just studying them, they were planning to change humanity's entire development pattern, to make humans as passive and controllable as the other species they had helped. We have to warn Earth, she whispered. But first, we need to gather evidence about what they're doing here. Thomas pointed to a communication station across the room. If we can access that, maybe we can send a message. And we need to do something. About these children, Jamal added, looking at the pods with determination. Maya nodded. We're going to expose everything. The galaxy needs to know what the Eldar have been doing. As the Eldar search team spread out to look for them, the 4 human teenagers prepared to make their move. They had discovered a terrible truth, and now they needed to find a way to share it with both Earth and the wider galactic community. The very independence that the Eldar feared had led these human children to uncover their darkest secret. Now, that same independence would have to find a way to stop them. Hidden behind equipment in the Eldar laboratory, Maya and her friends watched as Counselor Morvath directed the search for them. We need a distraction, Maya whispered. Something big enough to keep them busy while we access that communication terminal. Thomas dug into his pockets and pulled out several small objects he had collected from his room. I think I can create something that will trigger the ship's emergency systems. While Morvath was examining data at a central console, Thomas carefully moved toward an environmental control panel. He inserted several metal objects into specific points, creating a short circuit. Immediately, warning lights flashed as the ship's automated systems detected a problem. Fire suppression protocols activated in Section 12, announced an automated voice. All personnel evacuate immediately. The Eldar rushed to respond to the false alarm, leaving only 2 guards at the laboratory entrance. Now's our chance, Maya said. The teenagers moved swiftly to the communication terminal while staying hidden behind the stasis pods. Su Jin began working on the alien technology. I need a few minutes to figure this out. Can you keep watch? Jamal and Thomas positioned themselves to watch for returning Eldar, while Maya examined the nearest stasis pods more closely. These children, they look peaceful, but they're prisoners, she said sadly, placing her hand on a pod containing a small Naru child. The child's iridescent skin glowed faintly in response to her touch. I think I've got it, Su Jin announced after several tense minutes. I can access their communication system, but I need to bypass security protocols to send a message off-ship. How long will that take? Jamal asked nervously. Too long, Su Jin admitted, but I found something else. Look at this. She pointed to data flowing across the screen. This is the ship's system architecture. There's a backup protocol for the stasis pods, an emergency wake-up sequence in case of ship-wide failure. You mean we could wake all these children? Thomas asked. Yes, but it would trigger every alarm on the ship, Sujin warned. Maya looked at the pods at the sleeping children who had been taken from their homes. We need to do both. Send a message and wake these children, but first we need to make sure we can escape ourselves. There. Jamal pointed to a map on another screen. Escape pods, Level 3, Section 8. Perfect, Maya said. Here's the plan. Sujin, prepare both the communication and wake-up sequences. Thomas, create another distraction, something bigger this time. Jamal and I will find a way to protect these children once they wake up. The teens worked quickly, each focusing on their task. Sujin's fingers flew across the alien interface. Thomas gathered more materials for his distraction, and Maya and Jamal studied the stasis pod systems to ensure the children would be safe when awakened. Suddenly, alarms blared again. But these weren't from Thomas's distraction. They've discovered we're in the laboratory, Jamal warned. Through the doors they could see Counselor Morvath running toward them, followed by security forces. Now, Sujin, Maya shouted. Sujin activated both sequences simultaneously, sending a data package to Earth with evidence of the Eldar's activities and triggering the emergency wake-up protocol for the stasis pods. Throughout the vast chamber, hundreds of pods began to glow. The lid slowly opened as the alien children inside began to stir after years, sometimes decades of forced sleep. At the same time, Thomas activated his largest distraction yet. Multiple systems throughout the ship began to malfunction, triggering emergency protocols. Self-destruct sequence initiated due to critical system failure, announced the ship's automated voice. All personnel evacuate immediately. Time to detonation, 15 minutes. You didn't tell me it would do that, Maya shouted at Thomas over. The alarms, I didn't know, he shouted back. I just created the biggest system disruption I could. The laboratory doors burst open. Counselor Morvath stood there, his golden face contorted with rage. Do you have any idea what you've done? He roared. Thousands of years of careful species management, ruined by human children. You mean thousands of years of controlling and manipulating other species, Maya replied defiantly. We've sent the evidence to Earth and to the Concordat. Everyone will know what you've been doing. Morvath looked at the awakening children with horror. The ship is destabilizing. If you've triggered the self-destruct, we'll all die. You've doomed yourselves and these children. No, Maya said firmly. We're saving them, and we're going to the escape pods. You're welcome to join us unless you'd rather go down with your ship. The confused alien children were now fully awake, looking around in fear and disorientation. Many were crying or calling out in various languages. Maya stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. We don't have much time. Everyone needs to follow us. We're going to the escape pods. Though the children didn't understand her words, her confident tone and gestures communicated her intent. The human teenagers began guiding the alien children toward the exit. Remarkably, the children followed, instinctively trusting these strangers, who had freed them. Even Morvath and the Eldar crew had no choice but to fall in with the evacuation. 13 minutes to detonation, the system announced. The corridors were chaos, as hundreds of disoriented alien children followed the four human teenagers. Maya led the way, Thomas and Jamal helped those who were struggling, and Sujin used her accessed ship knowledge to guide them toward the escape pods. 10 minutes to detonation. They reached the escape pod bay and began loading the children into the large evacuation vessels. The Eldar crew helped, now focused solely on survival. 7 minutes to detonation. With the last children safely aboard, Maya and her friends entered the final escape pod. Counselor Morvath stepped in behind them, his expression grim. This changes nothing, he said. The High Council will still implement the intervention on Earth. I wouldn't be so sure about that, Sujin replied with a small smile. The message we sent contained everything, including the names of every Concordat species you've manipulated. I sent it directly to the Vryn and Quantari leadership. The escape pods launched just as the Eldar ship began breaking apart behind them. They watched through the viewports as the massive vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Their pod's communication system activated, showing a split screen. On one side was Dr. Chen, her face showing relief at seeing them alive. On the other was Ambassador Zila of the Vrin, her skin pulsing with patterns of shock and outrage. "The children are safe," Maya reported. "All of them. But there's so much more you need to know." 3 months later, Maya stood on a platform at the newly established Intergalactic Academy on Earth. Before her was an audience unlike any seen before on the planet. Human parents and teachers, alongside representatives from 17 concordate species and hundreds of alien children. "The Eldar believed independence was dangerous," she said to the assembly. "They feared species who taught their young to think for themselves. But what they never understood was that independence isn't a threat to stability. It's the foundation of true cooperation." She gestured to the formerly imprisoned alien children, now recovering and learning alongside human students. These children were taken because their species showed the same potential humans have: the ability to question, to adapt, to grow beyond what came before. Ambassador Zila stepped forward, her skin glowing with warm colors. "The Concordate has been reformed. The Eldar's control has ended. We now understand that what we mistook as human cruelty, your practice of teaching independence, was actually your greatest gift." Dr. Chen nodded proudly at Maya and her friends. Sometimes the greatest misunderstandings lead to the most important discoveries. As the ceremony concluded, Maya watched human and alien children playing together in the academy grounds. The alien children were learning independence, while human children were learning new forms of connection from their alien peers. The universe had never encountered a species quite like humanity, one that prepared its young for independence rather than dependence. What other species saw as cruelty was actually humanity's secret strength, children who grew up learning to think, question, and stand on their own. The galaxy hadn't been ready for that, but now they were learning, and it all began because aliens were outraged at the idea of boarding schools. "You imprisoned human children? Are you insane?" had been the question that started everything. The answer, as it turned out, was, "No, we're just human." And that makes all the difference. The end.